Great. I think we're
Thank you,
all
Tom.
here. So at 6:11, I'll call the meeting to order. A quorum is present in the vinyl library. We have Dan, Dean, Jeff, Tanya, Jay, Laura, Doug, and myself, and Diego is here to make a presentation shortly. Online, we've got Phil. And also so those are our board members, and let's see, Tom, Susan, Adrian, and Sybil are online as well. So calling the meeting to order. First item is the adoption of the agenda. Any comments or requests to amend the agenda? Seeing none. Yeah.
I think Dave is with us too,
Oh, and Dave, yes. I'm not seeing him.
although he's not on there, but I think he is.
There he is.
There he
And
is.
Dave, yes, and Dave. Thank you. There being no request to amend the agenda, next item is the approval of the March minutes. Any comments, questions, or clarifications on that? Okay, seeing none, they will stand as submitted. I don't have any communications from the public that I'm aware of, but we do have a presentation from our Public Humanities Fellow, Diego Alegria. So Diego, the floor is yours. Thank you very much for your written report. We look forward to hearing from you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me here. I've had a great experience here at WORT, and having the possibility of finally designing this project that's been in the minds of the station for a while. It's been an honor to be part of this community. So these are some notes that you might note, but I'm gonna do a brief presentation on the Summer News Collaborative, the stage we're in, and basically focusing on my two responsibilities: designing the curriculum and organizing the logistics of the program. So as you know, historically, WORT has relied on the unpaid time and labor of our volunteers, many of whom received training in various aspects of radio production and journalism. So frequently, our volunteers go on to obtain employment in the media industry using the skills acquired at our station. But we are aware of the inequities perpetuated by this volunteer model. So the Summer News Collaborative has been an initiative to respond to this model. So we will have 6 storytelling fellows, and they are going to be the first cohort of the WORT Summer News Collaborative, and they will learn the basics of journalism, storytelling, and audio production. They will participate in field trips and workshops with 7 to 8 guest speakers, and they will be introduced to a network of mentors in local media. So the first cohort of the collaborative will first be introduced to the broadcasting and podcasting industries. That's going to be the first unit that they will have. Then they will develop audio reporting, interviewing, and storytelling techniques. That's going to be their second unit. Then they're going to develop news writing techniques and how to write for the ear, how to write conversationally. That's going to be the next unit. And they are going to learn the ethics, values, and practices of journalism as an expanding and changing profession. So they will learn from different journalism association, style guides, and ethical principles. And 5, they will identify professional development and future opportunities in the audio industry. Some of the community organizations have said that they would like to hire some of those candidates too. So that will be amazing for their development. So these 6 storytelling fellows that are recommended by 6 different community organizations will make up this first cohort. So we are seeking individuals who belong to communities still underrepresented in local media: Black, Hmong, Ho-Chunk, and Hispanic. Ideally, the candidates do not have a background in traditional journalism pipelines, might not have earned a high school or college degree and have faced financial or socioeconomic barriers in order to volunteer their time at WRT. So our candidates have strong connections to their community, skills in storytelling or facility with spoken word, curiosity about broadcasting in general, about the radio industry and podcasting, and an ability to commit to the program schedules. So initially, we were thinking of doing the program from May to mid-July, but because of we are not committed to the timeline of the grants, we can extend it from June to August. My time here at work as a fellow will be until May 17, but we will have a program manager. So apologies. So we're gonna hire a summer program manager for this summer news collaborative. The hiring process will start in later April, and I'm gonna do an orientation to the program manager my last week here at WORT. And the program manager will implement the curriculum those 10 weeks, will provide hands-on training, and will coordinate the logistics and the service of the program. So they will have the orientation the first week, then they will run the program 10 weeks, and then the last week, the 12th week of their contract, they will do final service and see how this program can continue the next year. So our community partners include Rooted, Bayview, Progress Center for Black Women, and Worker Justice Wisconsin. We have confirmed one candidate and 3 more candidates that will come to the station, and so that we can say, okay, you are here. And we're seeking one more nonprofit organization, probably Freedom Inc., that will promote this initiative, identify a participant for the program, and be involved in their success. So the students will, the final assignment is to do a feature story of the community organization. They will do either an story about an event in that organization or kind of an origin story or a profile of one of the community members. So in terms of funding, as you know, the Summer News Collaborative has been funded by major donors and also by 2 grants, the EBDU Foundation grant, that's $10,000, and the Willie Street Co-op Community Reinvestment Fund, that is $4,000. And my salary has been paid by the Center for the Humanities. Sorry, I need some water. And in terms of the curriculum, I have read, adapted, and designed guides, tutorials, exercises, reference materials, and practice modules on the core skills that I mentioned earlier. So soon you will find in our YouTube channel many different video tutorials that will be used both for the Summer News Collaborative, but also for anyone interested in learning Adobe Audition and its editing, how to edit audio. The handbook is a 250-page document that is mindful of best educational philosophies and pedagogical practices for non-traditional students, as well as their linguistic and cultural backgrounds, particularly in terms of the assignments, the student participation. Most of the activities are in groups, stylistic resources from different organizations, and professional materials from journalism associations. In terms of workspace, Tom, Aaron, and myself have been clearing the basement, particularly the hallway and the equipment, and we have acquired equipment for outreach and audio production. Yeah, here you see the partitions. And yeah, I want to thank Susan also and Carol for how the funding has been, how the program has been funded, and it's been in our minds. And we've already purchased the laptops, the tables, and the partition walls, and we'll soon buy the rest of the equipment necessary for the program. So in the next 4 weeks, we'll we'll try to have all the candidates like 100% coming here, that they will be part of the program, all the equipment ready, and having most of the basement cleared so that we can make a final design before the start of the program. The handbook has been submitted. I will just make some small changes in terms of the digital service I will do for the students, and I will create the orientation for the program manager. So those are parts of the responsibilities for these 4 weeks I have left. Yeah, but I will continue here at work as a volunteer, and I'm excited to see how this program goes.
Oh, so you're going to stay after the 17th as a volunteer?
I will continue doing some projects for like the kiosk, but I will also come for the workshops of the guest speakers.
Great.
Yeah.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
And thank you so much for having me this academic year.
Thank you, Dean, and then Laura.
I've been impressed with the materials that you've shown us, and the high level of skill you exhibited in developing these things. And I've also been impressed in my perception of it seemed like you really liked being here. And I think and I hope that the station gave you the vehicle to make this happen. It seemed like that all came together. So I've been impressed with the high quality of the work that you've done here, plus also with your own personal traits that you brought here.
Thank you.
And as you go back home to the school, I'm hoping that there's more like you there that you can recommend for us next year maybe, and then with the same program we can continue this through the school program that you're in, because I think what you brought here really exposed us to the opportunity to partner like this in a lot of ways, and what you brought here is really going to add to our station. So I want to thank you for that.
Oh, thank you so much. And we secured more funding for another fellow next year who's going to do Spanish language programming.
That's
so
fantastic.
I recommended that to Shally and the coordinator, and they continue the conversation. So
I think the board here would be really hopeful and do everything we could to make that an ongoing
it's a great program, and I completely recommend it to students.
Thank you. If they're all like you, this station is gonna be different.
Thank you.
Laura.
I have two questions. First one is, could you briefly describe the hiring process for the program manager?
Oh yeah, so Shally can add more. They have experience not only in journalism and and audio production, but also have experience training and in media literacy, so that they are familiar both to how we provide training here at WORT, but also how to teach underrepresented students as well, adults. But I don't know if we can add more. I don't have here the description of the position, but I have it.
Has this been advertised, or how?
We'll start next week. Or
We have position description written. Are treating it like a regular hire. So outreach that we're in support, right? Posting on all the regular websites. But we know that doesn't capture everyone.
Can you talk a little louder for this thing?
Sure.
Or come up to the table.
Can you get that door?
Yeah.
That might help.
Yeah, the hum is pretty loud.
So sorry.
no worries, It's all good.
Ongoing crisis. So We're treating the hiring application like a regular hire that we would for, and go through the same process that we would for any job at WORT when I'm very accustomed to hiring producers and so forth. So there'll be an interview process, be a position description, and so on, and advertising on kind of journalism job boards. I want to impress to the board that the person we're looking for is kind of a unicorn, right? Person has a background, not just in journalism, but also in working with diverse communities, right? This person has a flexible schedule, right? And is willing to take work for
12 weeks.
12 weeks. Thank you. So that's a lot of specificity. I have some leads, so I'm not entirely concerned.
Okay.
But that's why the pay is somewhat competitive.
Yeah, it's
Right.
9,600. That is funded by the FU Foundation.
And, this person will also have support, right? There are reasons I say no to doing certain things in order to prioritize this, because it's going to take a lot of work. So,
Okay, it's a very important position. That's why I.
And I wanted to follow up with Dean. Yes, it's occurred to us to pursue this position, in future years. The Center for the Humanities does not usually offer the same opportunity to an organization more than once. For us, they made an exception because they were so impressed with Diego's learning experience here. A big part of this, maybe you talk about this, a big part of this fellowship is not just benefiting us, it's benefiting a scholar, right? And so they were so impressed that Diego was learning, and the way that you talked up the program, that they agreed to pay another half-time graduate fellow. That hiring process has completed. We got 4 excellent applications. I interviewed all of them, made a decision. That person's ready to start in August, but that will probably be the last time that we get that from that opportunity, because there's a lot to spread around. They only have like 3 program fellows per year. So
I'll give you something to think about. Maybe there are other departments that would do something like this. We'll see.
Yeah.
The
This is a
second
unique
question. Does WORT maintain any of the rights to the instructional materials?
I mean, it's work product. I don't know how the board handles that on a large
But we could
scale.
use it if you were to leave the station, which I think is your intent. We could use it to do another workshop or.
Oh, that's the goal.
yeah,
Diego's
that's
at
the
work
goal.
on, I mean, that's a whole part of this project, right?
I
What
just wanted to make
benefits
sure.
the fellows also benefits the volunteers at work. The workshops that are recorded also are of use to volunteers. The instructional materials that Diego makes helps me expand my capacity to make instructional materials in different ways. So, he just finished Adobe Audition trainings that were quite an iterative process for us to go through and edit, and which is amazing. They look so good, right?
And that extends to all of the materials.
Some of them are program specific, but yes.
Excellent. Thanks for the clarification.
Thanks for the
Yeah,
questions.
of course.
Yeah, there's a question in the chat from Phil, asking Diego if you could expand on the inequities and barriers specific to those populations that we're serving by the program.
Oh yeah, so in local media, we do not have both many journalists from these backgrounds and stories that amplify their voices in broadcasting. So the program allows for those candidates and future candidates to be part of the local media landscape.
The goal is to build a pipeline, right? We know that doesn't fix everything, right? But it's a start. And if you look at the newsrooms across Madison, you'll see that they're not as diverse as they could be.
Does that help, Phil?
I guess I'll also add that another inequity is economic, right? We know that WORT is built on a model from 1975, which is great. I love it. I love that we're volunteer based, right? But that is becoming less and less a feasible opportunity for people who need to work 2, 3, 4 jobs in order to make ends meet. There's a decline of the middle class. And so we were looking, all the way back to 2019, we were looking at how are we going to incentivize people to spend time at WORT when they normally wouldn't be able to in a volunteer capacity. But once people walk through that door, something changes.
Well, that's what I hope.
You're sucked in, right? And we're trying to pull
Right,
people
that's what
in.
I hope to say. I mean, I hope eventually some of these people end up sticking around.
Yeah, that's the
Exactly.
goal.
You
That's
said
the
you were
goal.
going to.
That's the goal.
Yeah, yeah.
For
definitely.
us and also in local media, the last week
Right.
of this is like professional development, I think as you mentioned, and introducing to other local media as well. We just met with our first confirmed candidate, gave her a tour this week, Shy, from Rooted, and she was just like, oh my God, this is so cool. We like stood we're in the middle studio for a little bit, like herself, and then Mike and was like, oh my God, this is so neat.
Yeah.
Right. So
Are we getting just one candidate from each of the organizations, or so? Okay,
Yeah, it's one. Sorry, it's
Yeah.
one per organization.
okay.
Yeah.
So we're taking who gets through their pipeline.
well, yeah, but they're pretty transparent
Okay.
about who will be a good fit and who
Okay,
won't, and it's
okay.
an ongoing discussion
Okay.
with many of them of like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and this list of organizations is mostly finalized, but we have some that are a little lingering. But Diego has also prepared a resource that is a very long document to be used for future kind of outreach and engagement efforts. That's like pretty much every nonprofit or community organization you could think of, and their contact information, notes about them, of how to get in contact if one of these falls through.
Yeah.
So we're on pace, getting a little nervous, especially with you leaving in a month, but we're good.
And do you have plans for, what are you gonna do in terms of broadcasting their final product or the work they're gonna do? Are you gonna have like a special edition of the news or something? I mean, how are you gonna showcase this?
That's a great, it kind of depends on the content that they produce,
Okay.
right? If it's in Spanish, then En Nuestro Patio would be a good place to
Okay.
air it, right? If it's in Hmong,
Yeah.
Hmong Radio would be a good
Yeah.
place to showcase it. If it's in Spanish or if it's in English, the local news would be a good
Okay.
place to showcase it. So there is that, maybe not every piece would end up, or maybe not immediately.
Okay.
You're right that it would be cool to be a compilation. There are reporting requirements for the grants that we have, and so they will at least end up on the website. But every piece pretty much, because that's part of what we train them how to do. And so that will become part of the reporting requirements and also kind of evergreen programming that we can use. So
in the interest of getting the stories out to a larger audience, stories that are in other languages, will there be an opportunity to have an English translation, at least to read?
Yeah, they will. We will train them also to translate their pieces. Yeah, or how to use translation in audio.
Because it's important to hear the language and the story in its language if possible, and the people who can't fully comprehend the language would miss out.
Yeah, we need to get
Yeah, we need-
educated too.
We don't want anybody, we don't want to limit the story's exposure to the people who, only the people who can understand the language.
they're
Rebecca
very
Barber
ethics about
signed it.
that.
Yeah, right.
Right, like Hmong
Like, I don't
Radio,
wanna
when it
make
was
them,
started
but
in
yeah.
the 80s, was intentionally left in the Hmong language, right,
Right,
for a very
right,
good reason.
right.
But yes, I totally understand what you're saying. We've had a track record with that. Rooted did a whole series of translated things. Diego's really led the
Yeah.
charge on like figuring out how to explain how to do it.
Yeah,
because
like
it's
what's
tricky.
What's the good dance?
Yeah,
of
Yeah.
that?
yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
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 I think the DEI committee is going to watch this very closely.
That would be really cool.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments or lavish praise on Diego and
Yeah.
Sally for this
Praise us
program?
yet.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Good start.
Come back and
These are
give us a
definitely.
wrap up.
Yeah.
Both
we
you
will.
guys.
Tell
great
Jesse
work.
Lee how good a job you've done.
Hmm?
We'll tell Jesse Lee how good a job you've done.
Oh, thank you so much.
Oh.
Yeah, she is a great mentor, and I
She's
had
back
a
in
great-
Uruguay now. She's down
Yeah,
a month of a day.
Yeah, and she's also my landlord.
Yeah.
Small world.
With that, yeah.
Well,
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Have a wonderful day and meeting.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I can't read the screen from here. So if there's something that I need to be, so there's something in the
I'm
chat.
keeping an eye on
Okay.
it. That's why I have the meeting open, is so I can
Okay.
keep an eye on the chat.
Okay.
So, Phil says, Tanya anticipated my next question. Appreciated. Great work,
Mhm.
everyone involved. Susan says, thank you. She suggested the program to Molly in 2016. It's wonderful to see it come to its fruition.
Yeah, 8 years have
You know,
passed.
and thanks to you both.
course.
I know how much work I see a glimmer of how much work has been involved in this. So,
Thank you, Doug.
yeah, it's great for WORT. It's fantastic. It's also good to business donors because they love to see initiatives like this.
And product.
So, yeah, right.
Yeah.
So like even for me going out selling underwriting, this is the kind of thing that is so sellable for WORT that businesses want to support. So it's
Yeah.
really exciting.
Thank you.
This is benefits in everything we do at WORT, plus things we're not doing yet that we're gonna do.
That we hope to
So
do.
you really have this, given us the opportunity to expand our reach and really broaden what WORT does here. It's
Thank you.
impressive.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Diego.
Thank you.
Moving on. My report. I wrote a personnel committee report encapsulating the activity of the last month or so, which has not been approved by the committee, but I hope is accurate. But I just want to say one thing.
Bye, guys.
So that was my report as on behalf of the committee. I also want to say one thing under my own name, and that is that I'm sorry about the issue of the composition of the personnel committee. That was a mistake on my part. And the staff was correct to call us on it, and I apologize for that. I should have been more attentive to the fact that the bylaws clearly say up to 5, and we made it 6, and that's on me, and I apologize for that. And furthermore, the reason it can't be 6 is that would constitute a quorum of the board. So I apologize to everyone for that error. And that
Wasn't just yours.
that was on me. So and the rest of the report is in as the personnel committee report. The executive committee actions, we extended a staff member's family medical leave, which I don't think I need to go into detail while we're in public like this. But
You want this in the minutes?
oh yeah. I mean, it's the fact that it's a report, but I'm not going to go into the details on it. That is the only executive committee action since the last meeting. And you can put my apology in under president's report too.
Sure. Appreciate it.
Treasure, my biggest failure as in any kind of leadership capacity is I get defensive about things. I know this about myself. I'm trying to work on it. I'm really trying to work on it, but I get defensive.
You apologize repeatedly.
I'm good at
You're really good at
apologizing.
that.
Lots
Good at
of
apologizing.
practice. I've had lots of practice. Dean, your report.
Okay. Wednesdays came early this month, so the finance committee and the finance team didn't really have an opportunity to complete the statements in time for our finance meeting, which was last week. So we didn't have one. But I can report that the goal of creating everything we needed to prepare for the audit was accomplished and hit. I was able to finish all the reconciliations prior to last Friday when the auditor came, and part of the auditing process is they come and pick up materials and they take it to their office. And so some of the stuff that reconciliations were part of that. So I was able to finish them up until January. I did January's of this year, and February and March. I'll get 2 on a monthly basis now that we're caught up. This I would have done earlier. There were some technical difficulties that I had with accessing some of credit union statements, and then while in there were certain things that didn't come up. There some of the online stuff was frozen and I couldn't get in. The 2 times that I went to do it, both times they were frozen, so they weren't completely 100% thorough. But I have all confidence that there is nothing that is going to come up that will show a glaring error in all the stuff that I did. I didn't find any mistakes. The reports are well organized. They match up with the paper trail, matches up with what's online, which is essentially what reconciliation is. And so I'm confident that we're fine there, and that going forward, that when I come to do the monthly reconciliations, I'll be able to get in there just a 2 times weird, but I've told that it's not uncommon. So there's a little glitch there, but we'll work our way through that. So all the audit prep is been turned in on staff part and our part. So that process has begun. Probably sometime, maybe by next month, we'll have at least a preliminary report. Might be done. But certainly by June, the audit will be finished. First, it comes to the finance committee. We review it thoroughly with the auditors. Then we'll bring it here, and anyone who has any questions for the auditor who will be at our meeting, they can bring it then. But there'll be a finance report, kind of breaking it down for anything that would be of note. In the past, we've had audits that have been fairly clean. A few things they'll bring up if there's glitches, like last year, reconciliations weren't done. So this year they will be. So that we eliminated that, and a couple other things that were noted in last year's report. We also addressed, I think we all found, and all the staff reported to us all, that having Nick from Numbers for Nonprofits was a significant improvement and help to preparing the audit this year. So that was well worth the investment. And there were some recommendations about using them again going forward throughout the year. Can you help me refresh on those?
Sure. What the finance committee wants to propose is that Numbers for Nonprofits comes in on a quarterly basis as opposed to once a year. And this would only be an hour or two kind of check in, which would actually, over the course of the year, be less than what we paid for the once a year 10 hours, because it would only be somewhere between 4 and 8 hours. And if we get board approval of that expenditure, Nick can prepare the contract tomorrow. He was in today. Hannah had a couple more questions on the audit. But as of today, between Nick and Mary Joy, they've answered all the questions that the auditors have had. Like one PDF wouldn't open for item number 35. And then there was some the payroll, vacation balances for staff at the end of the year, like how much accrued vacation and personal time each employee has at the end of the year, because the auditors track that as well. So those last couple of questions were answered today. So as of now, everything's in the auditor's hands, and we should be done with having to answer the myriad of questions that have come over the last few days. The beginning of this week, Mary Joy's really been working hard on fielding all of the questions that, and as have I, that Hannah has thrown at us throughout the process. But we're definitely looking good. It's been a much smoother process than it has in prior years. I can definitely say that with certainty. I personally definitely recommend keeping on Numbers for Nonprofits on a quarterly basis. I'll make that motion, even unless the finance committee, we didn't have a chance to meet to say we as a committee put this forward, but I do know that everyone on the committee is fully behind the motion.
Yeah.
But this would start when? This is
in 3 months. No, this would be in 3 months starting this year. So there was a certain amount of expenditure this year. For next year, we can just put it in the budget.
Budget for next year.
Right? But this year it would mean an additional, let's see, what was it? April, May, June, July, September. I think at the most there would be 3 more
You'd want them to true up the first 2 quarters of the year at the.
Yeah, right. So
Maybe it
Well,
should-
let's-
I think a
that's fine.
maximum
Why
of,
don't you come back with a?
I think it would be a maximum of 600.
We can bring it
Come,
back.
come back.
Yeah.
next month
We'll,
with an
uh,
actual motion.
Talk it
Sure,
all over
I'm fine with
again.
that.
It's not a.
Yeah, we didn't have a chance to have a finance committee
Yeah.
meeting, or we would have,
That's
so.
fine.
we'll do
Yeah,
it next
because I
month.
can
We know
review
the
my
timing.
email
Yeah.
from Nick
Okay.
and his specific proposal on which months he's talking about
Sounds
coming
good.
back.
Now,
Um,
one last thing about the audit, Susan mentions, once the audit is done, there's this form called 990 that every nonprofit has to fill out, and it gets filed, and it's actually public information. You can look on there, certain things on there and that gets filed after the audit. If the audit's not done by June, you can get an extension to put it in, because they're normally have to be done by June, but they're a little point of interest. Madison has more nonprofits per capita than any other city in the country. So there's a lot of audits that Wegner's and others have to be done. And
automatic.
so they're often, a lot of them often don't get it done by June. So there's almost, a lot of them ask for these extensions. There, no penalty involved. And if you get them in a little late, as long as you file for the extension, there's no penalty. So if you don't get it done by June and it doesn't get filed, we've already, we can get an extension and it's no harm.
Yeah,
Well,
we've
we're on a
actually
limit
already
here.
filed for the extension. Cash Joy did it on our behalf
Yeah.
and it was approved.
Right, so we,
Yeah.
just to anticipate that we might be late.
I have a
okay.
question, Steve.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure why I haven't brought it up before, other than, to be honest, I'm still learning to navigate all the documents in the Google Drive. So I'm currently looking at our bank totals, and I see that they look pretty healthy. And we have over $600,000 as of April 1st. What I don't see, and other boards that I'm at, as interest rates went up, is putting some money into CDs. And I'm wondering whether the finance committee has considered that.
Yeah, we, go ahead, you got,
Yeah, we actually already took, was it 100,000 or 200,000? And we invested in high interest savings accounts.
which were.
They also give a higher
Oh.
rate than CDs,
Okay.
and you can pull the money out when you want.
Right.
So yeah, we actually already did convert a bunch of money, which has also been.
So is that
reported
shown
together.
on this bank?
Yeah, that
totals?
would be the
It's
Betterment
100,000,
or
Susan,
the
just reminded
Ocean
us.
I think
View.
it's the orange line.
Ocean View.
Yeah, Ocean View is one of them and Betterment is the other.
Got it. All right, great, perfect.
Mhm.
Thank you. Glad it's taken care of.
I believe we have those in the dashboard.
Yeah, it looks like over $50,000. Right.
Yeah, and I want to say the return is like so good that we're gonna make thousands a year on it.
Right,
Yeah.
that's why I asked the question.
I think it's
Yeah.
$6,000 for each.
Right.
And the numbers of, the arc went up this month.
Mhm.
So
Wow.
we like
Go
that.
figure.
We like that. Okay, anything else on the treasurer's report? Seeing none, then it, without objection, will stand as submitted.
I have a question about
Yes.
that. Who's going to report the treasurer's report at the annual meeting? I'm
That would be the
trying-
treasurer.
okay.
Is there a reason why
Unless
it was
you
me?
want to.
No,
With me.
well, I'm thinking ahead to the annual
Yeah.
meeting, and
Yeah,
I'm just wondering if what we're
Thank you
going to be
for
able to
reminding me
report.
of another thing I have to do.
Oh, sorry, thank you. That's it.
Okay, then we'll move on to the staff reports. Is Tom still with us? Tom is still with us, yes. Tom, anything you want to call to our attention regarding your report?
It was one thing, so I don't think so.
Or there's anything about last night's issue that we should be more aware of? We heard a little bit from Sybil earlier.
Well, the board died, the board in B has been dying on a regular basis. Kind of stems back to August of 2019 when it really blew up. But it's been limping along. Knew we had to swap it out with the board we took out of combo A when we put the new Axia stuff in. Last night it blew up a couple times and then it would not go back online. It would not go back online. Aaron stopped in, what was it, 2 a.m., something like that. Could not get it back online, but combo A was broadcasting. So moved everybody over there. That was good. And I thought, well, combo, the board finally blew completely. So came in and swapped it out, and we still couldn't get on the air out of combo B. Turns out to be one little device sitting in the rack in master control that they don't make anymore. So that controls which studio is broadcasting where. That also controls the tally lights outside and controls who has control of the dump button. Tried various things and trying some more things tomorrow. And Laura and Aaron and I and the rest of the engineering committee are actually looking at a more longer term solution, which is something that was going to happen after we got all of the rest of the live wire equipment in. So we'll just be ahead of the game. But for right now, we have a game plan to broadcast, have everyone broadcast out of B, except when we need the middle studio mics or when we have talk radio with call-in phones. So we've got a plan to figure all that out. In fact, we have to swap that around in about 7 minutes.
Can I get you a little earlier?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's really, we got a game plan. Everything should be smooth and okay. And we're working on plans to resolve this further and more solidly as we go in the next couple of days.
Thank you. Anybody have any other questions for Tom?
No, other than 3 cheers for getting the new board installed for combo A.
Yeah.
It sounds good. And it's so much nicer. So I can't wait to get combo B done as well.
Me too.
Yeah.
If I can just mention the fact that we had such interesting work days, the engineering committee getting together. It was truly in the spirit of community radio. You guys would have loved to have been there.
Yeah.
So,
Well, at least I don't have to come and hold up one wire in one hand and instead of a volunteer schedule.
Keep it like a can of Norm Stockwell around.
I think Susan is seeking recognition. Did I see?
I think Dave answered her question in the chat.
Okay.
Okay, I gotta run. So
Okay, thank you,
Thanks,
Tom. Then without objection, his report will stand as submitted. Business and events report. Doug.
Yeah, I'm doing some stuff. So Woodstock's coming. I have raffle tickets, packs of 30. If you would like to take one and sell them to friends and neighbors. They're in my office, ready to be checked out. I also need one more board member to run cash from the beer ticket sellers to the safe that will be on site. I need someone to do the early shift, right? Dean, you're doing 4 to 7?
Yeah.
So I need someone from 1 to 4. And basically it's staying close to the ticket sellers who are selling beer tickets, keeping an eye on their drawers to make sure they don't get too full of big bills. And then I will have numbered drop envelopes that the money goes into. And then as you clear all 3 drawers into the envelope, seal it, and then it goes right into the safe. When we open everything up at the bank, we have the sequentially numbered envelopes that the auditors love to see, because it means there was controls on the money the whole time. Yay, they love that. So do we. So anybody want to do the 1 to 4? That's going to be at Woodstock anyway.
Is it the 19th?
It is the 19th.
Okay.
I was hoping that you would bring your drone.
I'm doing that too.
I have other plans for you.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Oh, and a broadcast. I got a broadcast run.
Yeah.
And Tanya, thank you for signing up for shifts.
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. It's a great time.
Totally.
It is so much
I'm
fun.
in
as the-
Minneapolis at a
as long as the
wedding,
weather's
so I
good.
can't make it.
As long as the weather is good. Yeah, a little cooler than last year would be nice.
All right, yeah.
I have a question on your report. Is there any issue with Union Cab or just a matter of it just not getting done yet?
There's a long-standing issue within Union Cab that's of a personal nature with one of their employees that I would not rather get into because it involves,
Okay,
yeah, so it's being worked out.
okay,
So we are in communication with Union Cab and they're on board.
okay.
They have some catching up to do with us. And I'm in the process of reinstituting their underwriting. So I'm working
Okay.
with Bill.
Because I was a founding driver, so if you need any.
Right on.
No,
No, I mean, it was,
I was weekend graveyard the weekend we went on the road. Absolutely. I still got my
Wow.
jacket. Yeah.
yeah, there's been some communication
Okay.
problems over the past months, but they're being worked
Yeah,
on.
okay.
Yeah.
Then anything else you wanna?
Mallard's Night is
yeah.
confirmed for June 6th. So I'll be releasing, I'm waiting until after the weekend because this weekend we've got the Crystal Corner Night, we've got Record Store Day. I'll be selling Wortstock raffle tickets all afternoon on North Street. But then once that's over, we're going to start publicizing the Mallards game. And Wart gets half the money from the tickets that we sell to our volunteers and listeners and friends. There's a ticket link where they order them right off the Mallards website. So I'll have posters to put everywhere with QR codes. We'll have online blitz, social media, all of that going out. We also get to do a 50-50 raffle. We haven't done this type of raffle for Wart before, so I had to apply for the Class B raffle license from the state of Wisconsin. We already have a Class A for our Wortstock raffle. But if you're doing an on-site raffle, you have to have the other one, which will make us legit, especially because I know Ralph likes to do giveaway raffles at bars and stuff. And this way it'll be completely legit in case anybody asks.
Legit is good.
Legit is good. And it's like a $20 fee per year. And quite honestly, the last 2 or 3 years, I've been paying for that raffle license out of pocket because I just throw it on my card. It's done.
And I'm sure there will be some clever promos for Mallards.
Oh,
You can just do
yeah.
that already.
The problem with on-air promos
Yeah.
is that we're not getting all of the proceeds from the ticket sales and Mallards gets half of it. So according to the FCC, we cannot put that on the air. We can say there's a Mallards night. For more information, go to our website. And then on the website, we can go crazy. But because of FCC restrictions and not allowing us to promote for-profit business, it's kind of like if a brewery did a buck of every beer is going to go to the station. We've done it with pizza companies before, but we can't promote that on the air as such.
It's more like underwriting.
Right, because, well, it's promoting business because we would be pushing people to give money to a for-profit business in addition to giving money to us. So that's the line.
Susan seeking recognition.
There's no
Yeah.
line with the FCC and me using constant contact to reach 8,000 different donors and tell
Exactly.
them that, however, so I have that as part of the plan of using, you guys, I don't know if you're all familiar with constant contact, but it sends emails one at a time to people so they don't get marked as spam. You have a list of 8,000 donors. Each one goes out individually to each of those donors. So there's already a plan to publicize, and I can say whatever I want because there's no FCC restrictions on the emails. That's all.
Doug has said that the computer at the station froze and needed to be rebooted. So everybody else who's not at Wart is still on the conference, but nobody else is saying anything. So stand by and they will rejoin us as soon as they can.
We can now see and hear you. Hi, Dave.
Hi.
So you're back. I mean, we can see and hear you.
Yep. Yeah, so the conference, the Zoom conference has remained.
Okay, it's just the screen in the vinyl library that isn't working.
Correct.
Thank you.
Doug, you're muted. Doug, you're muted.
So the computer like needs to restart because it freaked out. Wart News is the get in.
You know what? It's 7 p.m. I wonder if the meetings crashed into each other.
Oh, Dan thinks that maybe the 7 o'clock meeting crashed into the 6 meeting, and
I
but
don't
there was
think so.
something that made us restart the computer. It may not have been Zoom related whatsoever. So we're restarting right now. So just hang tight for a moment and the meeting should be right back.
But it's possible we might need to use the link and come back in again.
No,
I don't
no,
know.
if we stay here, they'll join us back.
Well,
Yeah,
Thank you, Dave.
you might have to click the record button again since the device that was recording got kicked out.
Okay.
So let's see what happens. Hang tight here. Dan's opening Zoom again. Oh, unless Dave, were you the one recording? Yeah, Dave's recording. So we're still
No.
recording.
No, Dave wasn't recording. I think Dan started it, and
Why does it say REC when Dan's not in the meeting right now? And it says REC in the upper left-hand corner, so it never stopped. Maybe that's just a function of Zoom that if people are still in it, it doesn't stop.
yeah, it's in the cloud, and
Oh, okay. The recording is in the cloud, so it doesn't matter if he's in. So we probably won't have to say.
So Zoom doesn't care about the time, the start time and stop time. That's more for the convenience of the attendees. Once you create a link for a conference, and what I tried to do is set it up for forever, so it has no end time, so it'll just keep going, and we'll have to fix it from 7 p.m. to 6 p.m. start time. So I'll do that after the meeting. So
Cool. Okay, I'm gonna have to mute again because or turn off my audio because Dan's about to go in and I'm gonna get a horrible echo.
Yep.
So hang tight.
the wonders of technology. So while we have silence, I'll say something to Susan. One of the things that's so nice about this audio over IP equipment is we get to get rid of a ton of wiring in combo A and combo B and in master control. There's just like 1.5 miles of wiring that goes around that'll all be removed when everything is finally changed over to audio over IP. And a lot of old switching equipment, like that 3DRX device that stopped working last night. And so we won't have to worry about those anymore once we fully get changed over. But we still need a couple of pieces to make the changeover in combo B. And we're also nervous about training all the volunteers on the new boards. So
how much did the interim piece that we had to buy used cost?
I don't know. Tom bought that, but I'm assuming it's just $100 or $200. So
that's nice.
He bought it used because they don't make them new. So
right, that's what I said.
Video
concludes Doug's report.
Which one?
Oh, yeah, I think that's all I can remember.
Then without objection, we'll stand as submitted. Susan, are you still with us? Susan, any, Susan?
Well, I
Wilson?
do.
Yeah, she's
You'll
back.
see at the beginning of my report that I requested family leave, but the last week I already worked over 40 hours during my family leave. So I think I just want to switch it to no longer family leave, but just a permission to work from home.
I think,
Do we need to give you permission to do that?
I don't know. When it's for this long a period, I'm not sure when I'm asking for it for 2 weeks.
I think we can authorize family leave. I think it's between you and the staff. If working at home is a okay.
Yeah, and staff has already agreed to it.
Yeah. If you need more family leave, let us know and then we can vote that in.
Well, plus, didn't the executive committee already approve?
well, the executive committee
Yeah.
approved the extension on the family leave, but what she's saying now is that rather than taking it as leave, she just wants to be able to be working at home, which I think
It's
it's
fine
fine.
both ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, really, whatever works
Yeah,
out, works fine with
And
us.
it's there, the leave is there if you need it.
Thanks for letting us know.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'll just supplement, so my hours will be submitted as regular hours, and then if I don't reach 40, those remaining hours will be as family leave, and that's
No,
okay.
Sounds
You-
good.
The only caveat I'm just gonna throw out there, Susan has been excused from submitting evaluations.
she has submitted her self-evaluation
Right,
and,
but there's
she-
more.
Mhm.
So the reason, and I'm not being critical, I'm
Right.
just stating a fact. The reason for the excuse, and I'm not saying excuse in a bad way, excusal, that sounds better, was that she was on leave. That's the explicit reason. If she's not on leave, then I think we need those done.
I just want to respond that the audit came up. I received a ton of audit materials last week that had to be submitted by Friday that I received late. I also, we didn't get them until Doug either Wednesday or Thursday, correct? I had a long list of those to finish. And
It
I
was
also had
Tuesday
to-
during the staff meeting, so yeah.
So again,
I
I'm
also
not
had-
being-
No, no,
Susan,
I'm just saying that you're prioritizing me getting those done. And I'm telling you the other things that had to get done that I prioritized above. And if you guys want to put a priority and say, finishing those is more important than the audit, finishing those is more important than getting the information that needed to be submitted to finish the winter pledge drive and get that to Tom, that's fine. That was my mistake on thinking that I could
Yeah,
prioritize.
you did it right.
Right.
We just, going forward here, what about this week? Can you get them done this week?
Yes, well, the self-eval's been turned in and I'm almost done with the others.
Okay, that works.
and then it's a non-issue.
Super.
It was simply, and just for the record, it was not a criticism. I want to be very clear, Susan. It was, since we're all lately being sticklers for detail, the reason you were given leave to miss the deadline was because you were on leave. And that was my question. It was a question, not a criticism.
No.
Is if you're not on leave, then
No.
but if you're gonna do it in this week, it's a
Yeah.
non-issue.
Jeff, I just want to clarify because I think this is a good point to clarify, and I did not take that as a criticism at all.
Okay.
What I should have done, and I just want to make this clear, because what I should have done was come to the board and say, I now am responsible for things during the audit that nobody else can take care of. I'm now responsible for things to finish up the winter pledge drive so we can get those numbers into the system that have been hanging around there that is part of the reason the finance committee wasn't able to meet, because that wasn't done. There were a number of things that I felt like I had to do that took precedence over that. But the correct thing to do would have been to go back to the personnel committee and say, this is what I'm working on right now for Ward. In addition to the time I'm spending on family leave, I am spending this 40 hours. I plan to spend this 40 hours to get this stuff done. And I'm just asking for clarification. Should that have been the correct procedure?
Yeah, I think keeping us in the loop ahead of time, this would have all been answered and understood. And it was good to hear that you're able to do some work while you're still dealing with your family responsibilities. So that's fine. And I think we've got a resolution. But yeah, just let personnel committee know if this is going to change, and if you need to flip into solid family leave, then we'll know. Then if you're able to do some work, then we'll know that too. So whatever, just let us know ahead of time, and then it's all good.
And frankly, were you gonna say something, Susan?
No.
Okay, frankly, I think personnel, when we set the timetable for the submission of evaluations, we figured, okay, pledge drive is done, give them 2 weeks, and we did not recognize that the end of the pledge drive was not the end of Susan's high work. I mean, Susan had pledge drive work to continue after the pledge drive was over. And I think that was, again, we didn't recognize that. So, but I think we're all on track, so we can move on. Anything else from your report you want to call to our
No, I
attention?
just was wondering if anyone had any questions. I wanted to, yes, well, actually, I do want to point out, after the pledge drive is the worst time for Karen and I. It is much busier than during the pledge drive. So just in future for setting evaluations, it's really difficult to do it within 2 weeks of a pledge drive. It's that we are just 100% committed. Just if anyone had any questions, that's all.
Okay, anybody have any questions for Susan? We have.
I did want to point out during the winter pledge drive that we did end up at 102,000, which is the second best we've done in a pledge drive in the past 8 years. Last year was the highest. I'm really impressed that in that last week after the drive, we managed to bring in close to another 20,000. But I have heard from actually several hosts that they felt under quite a bit of pressure because the goals they felt were too high. And the goals were actually 20% less than last year's winter drive. But last year's winter drive was a record setter. So I will be sending out an email to all the hosts and the pledge wrappers this week to let them know what I tried to tell everyone individually is all I expect out of people is to do their best. I have to pick a number. A number is a educated guess. So
It's not like anybody gets punished if they don't meet
Yeah, but
their goal. I mean,
but you really do need to be relaxed to fundraise, and they're telling me that they have difficulty relaxing when they look at a number that says, $1,200, and they're like, I absolutely can't do this. So I'm trying to relieve that in that I don't think you guys are going to hit the numbers on the nose. I have no expectation of that. But I have to have a number.
I want to say how pleased I was to hear so many on-air hosts pitching it after the pledge drive, doing that. The pledge drive is done, but we fell, and that was really, I thought they did a really good job.
I think that's how we made that 20,000. That 20,000 came from everyone afterwards saying that. So I really appreciated that. But I just want you to know I'm going to go back to the host and talk about the numbers and what they mean, and that the main thing is establishing a good solid show week to week that people tune in for. You have to have the audience and then the fundraising.
But also please extend our appreciation for how hard they worked and how successful they were.
I will pass that along, Stu. Thank you.
You've trained them well.
So without objection or any further comments, Susan's report will stand as submitted. Sybil, are you still with us? I can't. Yeah, no. Yeah, Sybil, anything you want to call to our attention in your report? Why is my document not open? I couldn't get it to open either.
Wasn't looking at the report, but I was just going to mention to everybody what I had told you when I stepped in there that I left out, and that is, well, I guess I'm going to be. It's hard not to work on stuff where you're away because there's always something happening, right? You just can't get it all done ahead of time. But anyway, so it just came up like this, the very, beginning of this week that we can get a live feed, good quality. There's no commercials in it. They will put our IDs in, so conforms to all kinds of broadcasting from the WWOZ station of the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Music Festival. So there's always a lot of terrific acts. And the live feed runs from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. And it's like Thursday through Sunday, starting next Thursday, the 26th, and then the following week, the first week of May. So we're not really doing be able to do a preemption because for most of it, we barely have 2 weeks to notify some people. And it's a tremendous amount of work to try to make sure to research different artists so far I've known all of them, but to make sure that they would fit in the time slot relatively close to the type of music that's on, or that it has, if we have to preempt it and it's something different, I have to find an engineer to be here because the regular program host is not required to sit there and run the board for something that if they have less than half of a show. So there's a lot of things going on with it. Are we gonna run through, past 5 o'clock at all? Or between 1 and 2, preempt, what all are we gonna preempt? So, but I'm juggling around with that. So, that's a very cool thing though. It's been a few years since they were able to offer it. And I wish they would give us more notice, but there's nothing we could do about that. So we're hoping, I'm pretty sure, since it's gospel-y and that gospel show is always pre-recorded, to the final night, it's Irma Thomas and a, big deal gospel performer. And the other community radio stations are trying to, there's an effort to try to get us all to join in to all broadcast that Irma Thomas, so across the country. So that'll be pretty nice. And then the other thing that I wanted to bring your attention to that was pretty exciting, it was the fact that in the course of the archiving project that Adrian's dad Doug has been finding stuff that he found at least most of, or at least a big chunk of the music tapes that I was looking for that were recorded down at the Terrace during hot summer nights, live at the Terrace when we used to do a live remote from down there. And then also some recordings that were done here live in the big studio. And many of them have signed permissions in there, but those need to be documented and maybe re-upped if there's an expiration date. Others we need to track down, but these will be so great for the leading up to and during the 50th anniversary year. And we're talking like the Subdudes and the Jayhawks and the Hispanic Boys and Honor Among Thieves, some local ones like Paul Seabar. We've got the Indigo Girls, Pato Bantan Reggae. We've got stuff with the Rousers and Shekere and all kinds of great bands. And I think that I'm just really happy about that. So I wanted to share that with folks.
I think we can promote the hell out of
these gems.
I think we can promote the hell out of that. I mean, we can have our own little Wort Music Festival. That's.
Yeah. I mean, there's different ways to do it. I mean, if there is 50 some tapes, we could, carve out a time where we were gonna feature a tape every week. But if we're able to just promote it, we'll try to fit it in with people's shows that would be interested in it. Boy, and a lot of these things are like a couple hours long too. They're quite a bit. There's a lot of different ways to program it, and so we're excited.
Doug, do you think you could sell underwriting for a series like that of recapturing the live from I mean that sounds really like we could find like a sponsor for that series.
That's definitely doable.
Full Compass Sound or somebody like that. Full Compass, which used to have its own series on WIBA, Radio Free Madison back in the day. They may be. I mean, I think there's real possibility of packaging that up as a series.
Maybe Fearing.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Do you know that?
Depends what kind of rights we get.
Well,
The ones that we have, the ones we don't, we can't use.
Right.
Or
I
track 'em
mean,
down, they need to get them.
yeah, I mean, we'll have to research that. Usually there's some type of permission, obviously they had permission when they first did it, but whether, there's permission to rebroadcast or not. I mean, I'm not sure. It's like, oh yeah, okay. It's just, that was about the other conversation. So Susan, were you asking about permission to rebroadcast about these tapes?
Right. Do we have a contract that says that we have permission to do that?
Well, each one may be different.
Right. I'm just saying we can't say we can do anything with them until we research what they are.
Well, I thought I made that clear, but thanks for, asking a question in case it wasn't.
Yeah, we got it. You're right. We got it.
okay.
Yeah. So, I'm figuring that, many, or most of these, it'll probably be okay with, but, some people will probably say no. But, don't harsh my excitement, man. I'm just hoping they all say yes, and it's going to be great. So yeah. But yeah, definitely every single one has to get the paperwork done and signed. So big project to work on. I'll have a summer intern.
Still exciting.
That's
Anything
all.
else you want to call to our
Nope.
attention?
Nope, thank you.
Any questions for Sybil about her report? Okay, thank you. Okay, who's next? Aaron's report. Is Aaron with us? Aaron's not with us. Aaron's probably good.
It's busy.
Because I had a question about something on Aaron's report, but he's not here, so I'll ask, what was my question? Oh, it was about the 50th birthday committee. We need to, according to Aaron's report, that's sort of faltering, so we need to.
Our next meeting is on the 25th at 2:00.
Okay. Okay, can you send, I don't recall, I don't remember seeing the notes. Can you, or Aaron send that out?
Yeah, I don't know if he is sent it out to 50th at WORT, but I'll forward it.
Okay, it's, when did you say?
Thursday, the 25th at 2:00.
Does the
Because
committee
That's a priority. We can't.
need more
Absolutely.
members?
Hmm?
Does the committee need more members?
Always.
Yeah.
Always, because this is gonna be a
Make
huge
sure I get an
undertaking.
invitation then. okay?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Do you want me to
Send it
just
to the
go ahead and
board.
add you to the group in the
Yeah,
morning?
send it to
Yeah.
the board.
Send it to the
Sure,
board.
yeah,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah,
And I'll be late. I don't get
Yeah.
off till
Send it to
3.
the board.
All board members are here after honorary or actual members of the 50th anniversary.
You're volunteer.
All boards and all board members and all staff are members of this committee.
yeah, great. So, I could
Honestly,
either,
haven't learned my lesson.
I'll either add the names individually or just board at Word
Yeah.
FM. I'll add to the groups. That
Absolutely.
way it'll just
Yeah.
forward to
Susan.
board every time
Yeah.
50th
Yeah.
come, gets an email.
Yes, Susan.
I've been in touch with Mike O'Connor and Joni Rubel. Both of them have kept in contact with many of the people that were part of the group with Dave, the founders, as well as being the host for the first year of WORT. I had told Mike about this 50th, I keep calling it anniversary and being corrected to call it, it's a birthday, our 50th birthday. Mike was wondering if they would be allowed to join the the birthday group because they have so much
Yes.
information to
Yes.
offer. And he
Yes.
also said, okay, and the second thing was, he said he has both Joni and Mike have tons of materials as well as other people. And they were wondering if we could set up a Dropbox that they could just drop all their stuff into because there's so many pictures and stuff. They're worried about overwhelming Google, any kind of Google Docs or
Can
something.
you and Tom
Yeah,
make that
staff.
happen?
Yeah, we can make that happen.
Okay.
Great.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
all.
because Dropbox is what you use for big files.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I will
Excellent.
let them know that you guys are all okay with any of the founders joining the group.
For sure.
And I will
Do you
field
have
their,
your emails, Susan, so you can give it to Doug and he can include them?
yes, I've been emailing them. They don't live in Madison, so I have been emailing them and I have their emails and I will let them know. Thank
Yeah,
you.
and well, I guess we'll send them Zoom link.
Yeah, and then Susan, just send me their addresses and I'll add them to the 50th at wordfm.org group.
Yes, I will take care of that.
Perfect, thank you.
And I can also get you David Chandler.
Oh, great.
Okay, okay, so, okay, that accomplished that. Then if there's nothing else, Aaron's report will stand as submitted. Shali's probably doing something. Any questions or comments or reflections on Shali's report? We won 5 more awards from the Wisconsin Broadcasters Association.
Yeah.
We don't know what level, but it's nice.
We shouldn't get into that habit of thinking that's routine. Those are
Well,
pretty
actually,
big
it's not
notice.
because actually, this is the first WBA that I've gotten. I've gotten a bunch of Milwaukee ones, but this is the first WBA one I've gotten, so I'm happy about that.
Yeah, cool. The awards we get are certainly earned.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's there's a Jim Post celebration down at the Cafe Carp that night, which is more important to me than going to pick up an award. I'm glad I have my priorities right. You know, it's just, I'm satisfied about that. But another, I mean, nice testament to Shali's department that she keeps bringing in those awards, and that she got the financing for, worked on the financing for Diego's position. Any questions or comments or reflections on Shali's report? I see there is a, Doug, do you know anything about this reception on the 8th for the Willie Street Co-op Community Reinvestment Fund, or for the collaborative? There's apparently a reception on the 8th. You know anything about this? Okay. Let's see that. Okay. If there are no.
Susan's got a hand up.
Oh, yeah, Susan?
Diego and Shali were planning on attending that. That's for the $4,000 that they awarded us. They're bringing all the people that they awarded money, the grants to, together on that date.
Okay, do you know what time that is on the 8th? And
You
where
can
all
find
the-
out from, I didn't pay attention because I told Shali I wasn't interested, but she can tell you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments, reflections on Shali's report? Okay, then it will stand as submitted. Adrian's report. So Adrian was with us earlier. Is Adrian still with us?
Yeah, but
Adrian,
she has no comments
yeah.
on her report
Any?
in the
she-
chat. In the chat, she said she has no comments on
Okay,
her report.
Any questions or comments? Any questions of Adrian on her report? On behalf of Adrian, Shali, and Sybil, I'll say we're working hard on the Vol Handbook. And we see we've got Vol Appreciation Week coming up. Any questions or comments for Adrian on her report? What, Adrian, when are those t-shirts, those volunteer t-shirts? How are those coming along?
Hi, can you guys hear me? My connection's being super weird.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. So the shirts are ordered. We got 120 orders, which I think is.
Nope, we lost you.
We heard you
got
for a
to
little
120.
while.
120, we got 120.
I think they're supposed to be here by the end of next week.
Okay,
She's hoping.
okay.
Is that right?
I actually placed the order with for the shirts and have been dealing with it, so I can supply the information. Because we asked for a front and back, which I've never asked for a multiple location, they were indicating that it might take longer than the end of next week because of that, which I don't understand, but fine. And we also have to use one of their special printers because that design has is a gradient of the rings. They're just not solid rings, they're a gradient. So that makes them have to go to a really specific printer that can handle that. So their arrival date is April 26th. And they're saying they're not sure they can do anything to make that any faster. That's all.
Okay. They'll get here when they get here.
I
Thanks.
took all the gradients out of the Wortstock logo for those t-shirts.
Okay, Adrian, did you hear Susan fill us in on that? Do you have anything to add on any of those points?
Nope. That all sounds correct according to the last email I saw about it. But Susan's been super helpful in this whole process. I could not have done it without her. So thank you, Susan.
Okay. Then without objection, Adrian's report will stand as submitted. Brings us down to the last item under staff reports, which I didn't know where else to put, so I put it here. The staff's objections to our action of last month, adding Deborah Weber to the email list and giving him speaking privileges. Doug, do you want to speak on behalf of the staff on that?
I don't particularly want to be the one to speak on it.
Okay. Well,
Well, we read it, we
I
read
would-
the re- we
I
read
mean,
your
the letter pretty much said it
Okay.
all.
okay.
I would be happy to yield to one of my fellow staff members.
Okay, does I see we've got Sybil and Adrian and Susan still with us. Susan. Oh, where'd you go? So, okay, Susan.
She was right there.
Hand was
I'm happy
raised.
to speak on it, but I'm not, like Doug, I think that we sent our response and we're interested in hearing back from you guys about the fact that we believe that any rights that a board member holds should be only allowed to board members that are elected by members. And Stu, you had told us that you didn't believe we had basically standing, let's just use a legal term, because that wasn't part of day-to-day operations, but all of the staff members are also voting board members. So as voting board members, I think we have the right to suggest that allowing the board to extend privileges that have in the past only been allowed to board members and not allowed to anyone else is an expansion that is beyond what we feel the board should be allowed to do.
I believe that the members have the question of creating an actual position called President Emeritus and recognizing it as a position that is certainly a matter that only the membership can control through amending the bylaws. I believe strongly that it is an internal board matter who the board communicates with internally and who the board allows to speak at a board meeting. That is purely an internal function as I see the corporation operating.
We're not giving him a vote, right?
We're not giving him a vote. It's a courtesy to someone who's doing us a solid by volunteering his services, volunteering his expertise and his understanding. And we could just as easily add a CC on every board communication, but it is a matter for the board to determine how it communicates internally.
Okay, then we have a disagreement about that, and there's an avenue for us. We understand that.
You can file a complaint. Yeah, Doug.
No, we can suggest an amendment that clarifies that.
Well, I'm recognized now.
I'm sorry.
One thing we should have been a little bit more clear on is that maybe we should write down a little description of what this position is, similarly like to the issues. It's just what is this position going to offer us? And it's clearly not going to be someone that can vote on issues. He won't be allowed into closed sessions to speak. So those things were rightly brought up in the meeting, and we can clarify those two things off the bat. But I think carving out some position that we could clarify clearly, we can easily do that. But I think we're in our right to do this, and having him included in having that position be included in board emails, I don't think it's a problem either, from my perspective.
Yeah,
to me, it's the equivalent, and I've seen this in dozens of boards I've been on, of ex officio status. So not a board member, but participating in board functions, if you will, as a helpful person. And while I do agree that it probably would help for clarity to put it out there at the annual meeting, whether we want to call it emeritus or ex officio, because I don't think we have that official position, just so that it's clear to everybody. I don't have any problem at all with proceeding as we've been proceeding. And, my question really is, what harm is this? And I see absolutely zero harm, and I see significant benefit, not just to the board, but to the station. And so, on balance, while I appreciate the staff's input and desire to stick to how they perceive the rules, I don't see this as violating any rules or any normal board practice of any kind. And it, again, pros and cons, very helpful, no harm.
I have a question.
Yeah, Tanya and then Susan.
Is Dave's position only different from being an attending member of the public in that he would also receive board communications? And of course,
No,
that,
it's significantly different.
okay,
Well,
yeah,
We're, you know, as a member of, we're allowing him to speak throughout the meeting. We don't allow, we give at a certain period of time at the beginning of the meeting for a community member to make a statement.
okay,
But then they're not allowed to chip in during the meeting unless we invite them here for a specific reason
Got
on a specific agenda item. But
Mhm.
people just can't show up and raise their hand and get called on to speak during a meeting.
okay, good. That helps me think about it differently.
Susan?
I just want to make clear that I feel like I'm speaking now as that Doug has deferred to me to speak, so I'm not speaking as a member of the public. I'm speaking as the staff representative, so I just want to make that clear. There's something in other things called the least restrictive means, and that concept is, can you do what you want to do without going this far? And I think if you look in the letter, we say, we have no problem with Dave being at the meeting, raising his hand. We're sure you're going to recognize him. We're fine with that. But why do you have to give him something that no one else has? I don't have the right. Nobody else has the right. You're extending a board privilege when we don't believe you need to. If you want to constantly recognize Dave when he raises his hand, great. That's one. Number two, being on the board email. You're certainly, if you feel this is something, and I do have to say the staff feels that this problem with the lack of institutional memory of board actions really is a result of the board not tracking this information or having it readily available. We've had this terrible audio tradition of storytelling, basically, instead of recording things. And I'm not faulting the board. It's easy to let things fall by. You know, the staff itself has had to get on it about writing things down instead of just telling people things. So we feel that the lack of institutional memory is the board's own problem that is being solved by something that should be part of onboarding and regular tracking of stuff. I brought up before that I went back and looked at a bunch of things for different reasons, board reports, and found all these directives to different committees and different people that had never been fulfilled. That there was no oversight of you guys saying, all right, finance committee, transfer this money now to this. A year later, we lost out on all of that money because
Speak to the issue, please.
the issue is that we were told the two reasons for Dave, these things was Dave was going to be part of the mailings because of the lack of institutional knowledge on the part of the board. And we're saying, why can't he just be copied on those where you have a question for him instead of every single mailing that comes, which is a board privilege? So that's all, that there's much less restrictive means than granting someone board privileges that will accomplish what you want to accomplish as far as we're concerned. And so we're concerned that why are you going to these links when you could accomplish this without doing that? That's it.
You're correct, though. It is a board privilege.
Was there another thing?
And it is the board's. Is there anyone who wants to make a motion to rescind our action to extend the privileges of being on the board listserv and having speaking privileges at the meeting? Thank you. And if the staff wishes, I suspect there will be. Yes, Susan?
Am I still acting as Doug, or Doug, do you want to raise your hand that you don't want this to happen? Okay, that's it.
Yeah, I believe the staff collective still objects. It could be noted. I will say one of our greatest concerns was closed meetings because it was never addressed in the original action. Dean clarifying that today, I'm sure will allay a lot of the staff fears about it, because that was one of the privileges we assumed was being given along with the rest. So knowing that, I have to say personally for myself, I'm a lot more relieved. I would also, though, say that I would hope that part of Dave's duties would be to process, document some onboarding materials for incoming board members, existing committees, and existing board members, so the duties are clear coming in. Because I know there's not many people at this table that knew what they were in for when they joined the board.
I had to teach myself.
Exactly. So documenting those procedures, I see, is of utmost importance. And the staff, as you'll know, in that letter, offered our help in constructing those materials because Dave's not the only one with institutional knowledge at WORT.
This is another issue, though.
Hmm.
Not the
Yeah,
issue
yeah, I
before
mean,
us right now.
Right.
Right.
The issue before.
And I'll end with that.
Okay. And frankly, if you would ask the question, does he get to be in closed meetings? I could have said no. I mean, you didn't ask the question. You operate on the premise that that this might be happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the same time, the whole thing was thrown at me
Okay.
off
No,
the cuff, and I had no advance warning, and I had no ability to confer with staff about a response, at that time, in that moment, in the meeting.
The letter that you sent didn't ask it as a question, didn't say, is he on? It presumed that it might be happening.
I think we should move on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
there's-
Laura has.
Hey, can we, in writing, enumerate these privileges?
The only, what we've done is put him on the mailing list and extended speaking privileges. Anything else, any substantive authority, any designation of a position as president emeritus, that has to be a bylaws amendment. That would come up that's
Separate.
All we've done is put him on the mailing list and give him speaking privileges. And that's it. And he is not a member of the board. And he's not a member of the board. He's given speaking privileges and is on the mailing list. That's the extent of what we've done. Anything else, I agree. Anything substantive authority, I think would have to come through the membership as a bylaws amendment.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay.
Steve.
And the other reality I just want to recognize, since David's in the meeting, is he is in no way, shape, or form even coming close to abusing speaking privileges. We've hardly ever hear, so I mean, honestly, if he was somehow becoming, I'll call it an aggressive attendee and speaking 20 minutes during a meeting, that would be a whole separate concern, but it's just not happening.
It'd be fun.
It might be fine, but it would call to question whether the role was being abused.
Right.
It's a privilege we can rescind.
Mhm.
I will note for the record and then move on that Susan continues to have a problem with this.
Ask a question.
No.
Closed meeting or not?
spoken. She doesn't have.
He has
speaking
board
privilege.
privilege, no.
Doug is-
No
Doug
closed
is
meeting, so that's
objective.
resolved.
Right.
Yeah. I just want to make that.
Yeah, I mean, it's there.
Yeah. I just want to speak to the other issue. Is that first time I was on the board, we had no board onboarding materials. We created an entire binder that we're supposed to give out. So that has been somehow misplaced along the way. Minimum people should get the bylaws, minimum people should, which the committees and their charges, along with whole series of other materials that we had placed in this binder. And we can probably reproduce them somewhere here. It was only about 10 years ago. So there are some things that we need to tighten up, as we are tightening up many things. So how we onboard.
Agenda.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to say that this is again a separate issue, as you pointed out,
Yeah.
which we can get to that at another time.
Another time, we'll put it on a future agenda. Moving on, that concludes the business of the staff reports, committee and work group reports. We've got 2 in the folder. Let's start with the DEI.
So there are only 2 items in the report. I don't think that the changes that we wanted to make to the committee charter rise to the level of actionable by the board, but you can see them in the report. They're just minor grammatical and spelling changes. I wanted to point out that the surveys that the work group had produced, or the survey that the work group had produced, has been distributed. Both Doug and Adrian have prompted people to please fill them out. We're at 66 completed surveys as of Monday.
I think you have
I
to
did
do
mine.
a survey in order to get your volunteer shirt.
Is this, aren't we considered volunteers?
No,
Well, in some
No,
respects,
no,
aren't
Should
they?
we get then should we get them anyway?
are you talking the survey?
Yeah.
I mean, I think the survey was designed for volunteers. I mean, this is not, because this doesn't constitute the kind of participation that gets you status to vote.
Okay. That's fine.
Yes, it is.
Although I would like,
No,
I don't think I,
Dean's a voting member.
but not by virtue of this service.
Yes.
Yeah, because it's
I
the
thought-
number of hours you put into.
All board members are voting members, whether they're listener sponsors or volunteers.
right, so I do
Yeah.
have a vote.
Tanya and Dean are voting members.
Can I just clarify that
It's in
DEI,
the bylaws, Stu.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't see how board members aren't volunteers. And besides, this is just a demographic survey. Why would we
Right.
want to have demographics from the board, Stu?
Okay, fine.
can I
Do we
just,
want it? I didn't hear, should we do, should board get them? If not, and if not, I don't, that's fine. But I would like to see it. I haven't seen it.
It should be in your email.
A copy of the.
I'll send you a copy of. if you
I'm
haven't
sorry
gotten
if I
it.
missed it, but I'd like to see it.
Yeah, it was sent out to Val Announce. I'll inquire, maybe Adrian can speak to that. Susan has a question. too.
Yes,
I'm sorry.
Susan?
the original thing was that we were going to do a survey for staff, a survey for the board, and a survey for volunteers, because all three are important indications of DEI, and all white staff is different than a mixed volunteer group. So the original purpose with DEI was that all three were going to be individually addressed. Boards are not volunteers for purposes of volunteer status. You are either a listener sponsor or a volunteer. You are one of the two. It specifically says that in our bylaws that you do not have volunteer status as a result of the board stuff. It's in the bylaws. So I would prefer that unless you're a volunteer, you not take the volunteer survey and you wait until the board survey comes out and you answer that survey instead. Over.
Thank you for clarifying, Susan, because as a new member of the committee, I was not aware that there were 2 more surveys coming. So
Yes.
thank you for clarifying that.
So I got the survey as a volunteer. As one of
Yes.
Charlotte's volunteers.
Well, yeah, we just
not
said the
as a
same
board
one.
member.
Got it.
Okay, anything else, Laura?
Yeah, but I'm opposed, so I-
No, that was it.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
right.
Then,
Right.
you'll see in the folder, a fairly detailed report from me on the personnel committee and the evaluations. I want to say at the top how impressed the committee was with the product that staff came up with on the self and peer evaluations. They were uniformly thoughtful, they were candid, they showed a lot of work, a lot of focus. They gave us a lot of very important insights and information, and uniformly, we greatly appreciate staff's candor. We thought that, there were a couple of bumps along the way to get the process defined, and again, but we thought the process really, the product was really, really good. And I want staff to understand just how much we appreciate their hard work and the candor that they showed on that. Because it gave us a lot of information, both in terms that frankly will help us, both in the immediacy, we've got, something as direct as position descriptions are going to need to be modified, and we think those start with the collective. I think because those go to the heart of daily operations, those really do have to start with the collective, and then we'll work through. But Aaron and Sybil's position descriptions have some overlap or conflict. Adrian's position description has inaccuracies. There are other position descriptions that need clarifying. Yours. So really, this is on staff to take the laboring oar and come up with work amongst yourselves and come up with things. But we thought this was a really good process. We have begun the interviews. We've begun scheduling. We've actually begun the interviews. We know that whether or not we use this exact process next year, do something a little more streamlined, we think this is a good process, and we're really happy with the way it turned out. So that's, and if any other committee member wants to add anything, but that's my take on it. Yeah. Doug.
Oh, I would wait for other committee members if they had any.
Yeah.
Two things. One, I actually think this is by far the most important thing we've done as a board since I've been on, which isn't that long. And second, though we haven't discussed it with a decision, we've had general discussion. But I would anticipate that for the first time in WRT's history, this will become a regular occurrence. Whether it's every year or every other year, we still have to discuss, but certainly not more than every other year.
No later than
or not lengthier.
No later than 2026.
Yeah.
We may do something simplified next year, but 2026.
Right.
Yeah.
I would add the bumps that you talked about. Were a couple emails back and forth, a little discussion resolved. And on we went. No acrimony, no nothing. So it's like, I actually didn't anticipate everyone to say yes, 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 yes. We had some back and forth. It was a great process, principled. Everyone answered thoroughly and respectfully. So it was a fine process.
Well, one thing I learned is never answer an email immediately after walking out of seeing Oppenheimer. I was way too jazzed. Susan, yes.
Is that leftover?
I just want to say that I probably should just let Doug say it for me, but I just want to say I am so impressed with this personnel committee, and I am so impressed with what you came up with in conjunction with us. I knew I contributed a ton of questions that ended up being used in the evaluation, but it was, you guys, I think, did a superb job. There was no, Stu, there was no feeling that, you were very receptive after, thinking about things. You were very receptive, and the whole personnel committee was receptive to things that we asked to be changed, and we're very grateful for what came out of this. So I also think I've had one review other than this one that's coming up in the almost 10 years I'll be at WORT. And this one looks to be so much better than anything any of our staff members remember ever getting from the personnel committee. So I just want to say big thanks to you guys for being so thorough and careful and thoughtful about this. That's all.
And I want to acknowledge Phil's graciousness in offering to resign to bring us back into compliance, and how valuable a member he was during the formation of the survey. And we really do thank Phil for both those aspects of his service. So thank you, Phil, for that. And if there are no further questions on the personnel committee, then
I mean, I couldn't have said it any better, really. I know we are all really grateful that the process is moving forward. Like Susan said, I've been here 10 years. I've been reviewed once, and it was very informal with Jane Richard. Nothing of this type. I've never been reviewed since I took on all of the HR and office management duties, the grant compliance. So to get feedback on my reinvented position is definitely valuable to me. And I know that all staff feel the same way about the process. So we're really excited that it's moving forward.
thank you. If there are no further comments on the personnel committee report, why don't we jump down to the mural committee report and have acting chair Phil.
Yeah, can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. The report I submitted is fairly comprehensive. We received 13 applicants. The committee is meeting next on the 24th. I believe that's next Wednesday afternoon. Same meeting time, 2 p.m. Central, hybrid in the station or via Google Meet to discuss the evaluation of the applicants we've received. And once we have come to an agreement on those evaluations, I'm hoping that we'll use some form of ranked choice to narrow our selections down to a top 5 or 6 that we will then approach about submitting a formal design and a bid, not even so much an estimate at that point, that would actually be their final bid for the project. And we are also hoping that they will be willing to agree to the fact that we simply don't believe as a committee there is any likelihood that this project will take place in 2024. And so we will have to push any painting off until 2025 in order to complete the fundraising necessary, and any grant applications, which at least the 2 grants that I have looked at both require us to have an artist designated as part of the process and willing to speak to their artistic vision, in order for those grants to be evaluated.
Bill, do you have any concern? I'm sorry.
Nope, that was I was going to say I'm open to any questions.
Yeah, as to a bid given in 2024 that's not going to be undertaken until 2025, do you have any concerns about people saying, wait a minute, I don't know what paint's going to cost next year. I don't know what this, I mean, are we going to have any allowance for a cost of living or some inflationary increase between their bid now and what it comes and what it ends up being next year?
Absolutely. I can't say this has been a discussion of the committee, but the limited amount of background I do have in construction leads me to believe that there's simply no way that you can formalize a bid without giving an allowance for cost adjustments, especially given the 12-month timeline that we're talking about.
So that'll be in the material that you distribute, that when they make the bid, there will be that allowance.
Yes, I simply personally believe that has to be included in any agreement we go forward with.
And is it purely a matter of the fact that all companies that could do the prep are too busy or already booked, that makes this a 2025? Or even if they were available, are we saying realistically, in order to raise the money and do everything else, this would be 2025 anyway?
Yeah, I think realistically, in order to raise the money, of all the 13 bids that we got, we only had 2 bids that came in for less than $10,000. And $10,000, I believe, given the amount that we have raised to date, is in the next few months that the painting season will be open in 2024. I don't know that we could raise more than $10,000. And honestly, of those 2 candidates, one doesn't have an exterior painting background and the other is not local, which as someone who's currently living in West Virginia, doesn't actually bother me, but I can absolutely understand why the wider WORT community of Madison Central people may have an objection to hiring an out-of-state artist.
And have you or will you communicate with Findorf and Alexander and the people who've already given big checks that what the new timetable is?
Yeah, I believe that the fundraising people who have made those contacts, Patrick and Jonathan Cooper, have been in discussions, but I also think that as acting chair, I should probably draft a letter just updating them and letting them know that this is the current timeline. So that's a good action item for me to write down. Thank you.
Susan, do you want to add anything on that point?
Usually when you've been given money by someone that it has a certain time frame, it isn't just informing them that there's a different time frame, it's offering to refund the money. You have no idea of what their expectations, and that's business or individuals. It's the same thing with grants. When you can't fulfill a grant, you go back to the grantee, you go back to the funder, and you say, we're going to postpone the thing. Are you okay with letting the money ride, or would you like it returned? That's the practice.
You work with Phil on that then?
Phil's welcome to contact me, sure.
Okay,
Yeah,
Phil, can
thank
you
you,
work with
Susan.
Susan on
Susan,
that letter?
I'll put together a draft and send it to you for review.
Great, thank you.
No problem.
Thank you for pointing that out. Anything else, Phil, you want to call to our attention on the mural?
Just my repeated suggestion that we really should identify someone as a chair for this committee who lives in Madison. I am happy to do the work involved in this, but I honestly, the position itself should be someone local to Madison, if only so that they can shake hands, be available and physically present to anyone who feels that that's important.
So
I don't know that I would want to cut a check to an effort being directed by someone in West Virginia, where I in Wisconsin.
In the hollers of West Virginia.
I think unless and until we find a chair for, do they have the door open at that? Yeah. They don't need that door open into the.
There's a cord running out of it. I can't shut it anymore.
The other door. The studio door.
Studio door. Thanks. Yeah. The
Case.
I think the most important thing is that we have a public face that's local. So for example, when we did the press release, it's ridiculous for Phil to either be the person who's going to talk to the press, especially when it's TV, or have to search for someone. And I think that person, to be honest, it was you. You're the president of the board. Now, I want to be clear. You're doing a ton of stuff for, and I say that in a good way, for WRT. I don't believe, and you can have a conversation with Phil, that means you have to be chair of the committee. But I think you need to be available when the committee says, hey, we need a public face.
Yeah, I did the TV hit for.
Right.
I if people are okay with that, do people want me to do that?
Oh, please.
Yeah, it came up
It
for
could
a
be your
vote.
legacy.
Phil, are you okay with that? With me being the local public face and you doing the work?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
A minor thought that I don't think we should automatically preclude prepping the building this year. the paint will last through the winter. Touch the building up, seal it up, put a good primer on it that'll last the winter. So I don't think and that'll be easy to get done. Now well, not easy. There's a whole process to it, but I don't think we should preclude not doing that.
Okay. Doug?
There's two reasons why we can't. One is they're booked, and two is we don't have the money yet.
We could get volunteers to do that. I know talented, skilled people that would come and volunteer to do this.
Okay, it's not simply a matter of priming the building. The
No.
walls need repair and
Right,
windows
that's what I'm
need
saying. That too.
replacing.
I just
If you've
don't
got
think,
volunteers who are gonna give us windows and replace windows, phenomenal. I'm
That's
sure
cool.
Doug and Susan want to know about that.
Phil's got something. Yeah, Phil.
I was simply just going to mention that I believe Tom was going to check with the local contractors that he's familiar with, but understandably, he's been incredibly busy. That may very well have been pushed towards the bottom of his to-do list. And my understanding is that any money budgeted for this is not in the 2024 budget. It's in perhaps as late as 2026. And so that is why the mural committee was planning that we would need to include that in our fundraising in order to move forward with this project.
Anybody? So I think it would be nice, but it's a practical matter. It's not going to happen 2024.
I mean, 2025 is the 50th anniversary. It's if it can get done
Yeah.
then
Maybe a
and
makeover.
sync it with the 50th anniversary, there's all kinds
Yeah.
of great synchronicity around that. I don't
Yeah.
see it as a big problem.
Dave, have
If
you
we
gone
get
on
this
screen in
far.
order to speak?
Yes, please.
Yes.
I think Tom getting the windows repaired does not have to be linked to the mural project.
Mm-mm.
I agree.
The windows are different.
Yeah,
Okay.
They're
Yeah.
not gonna
Yep.
impact the outside windows.
Okay.
Yep. So that can be done
I was
anytime.
actually referring to the surface prep of
Right.
the walls.
Correct.
Yeah,
And Susan is absolutely correct. The repairs necessary for an exterior painting project such as the mural are not in this year's budget.
Or the mural or the window repairs, not in the budget.
Dave?
The process I recommend is that Tom get estimates for windows and forward those to the board to be approved as additional to the budget.
To happen calendar 24?
let's
Yes,
get the quote. Let's get the quote.
and then we
Bring
can
it here
budget.
and then we can decide what we want to do with it.
Okay. Is that a
So,
motion?
well, do we have to move to ask Tom to get quotes?
I don't think so.
No, we can just
I can
tell Tom to get quotes.
pass that on.
Okay,
Yeah, and if he,
I have to do a report for staff in the morning anyway.
okay.
yeah, just tell him we would like to get some quotes on this and
Okay.
what's.
Anything else, Phil?
Not for me, no.
Okay, thank you. Then I think that's it in terms of committee reports, and if anybody has anything, how's the elections?
Doug drafted, I'm technically the chairman, but you know, it is Doug
Yeah.
that does the stuff that gets
Yeah.
done. I see that there are radio spots going out already. My
Yeah.
understanding is the paperwork. How many times a week are those planned?
I can't even tell you, at least 4 or 5 times a day.
Yeah.
We don't run a spot any more frequently than every 3 hours though, just because we don't want to sound like commercial radio, even with our own promos. Sorry if Wortstock hits you over the head in the 3rd week, but hey.
Deadline for applications.
The deadline for applications, so for those board members who are up for reelection, which are Rebecca, Kai, and Dean, applications are due by May 15th. And the application is available on our website on the left side in the What's Happening section. Station postings are up in the bathrooms and all the the bulletin boards, as well as the board bulletin board, which for the board members who don't know, our board bulletin board is right inside the door to the left of the sign-in. I have social media posts composed and sent to Faye for pushing out on social media, both Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. So those posts will be going out regularly as well.
So that's 2 participating members and 1 listener sponsor.
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm. And that's about where it stands now.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. Any other business? It would be nice to have that board staff retreat prior to the collective bargaining, but I'm not sure that's feasible at this point.
Well, if we don't have a date, we just don't have a date, and so that's not feasible. And the mystery to me is why we keep being unable to have a date.
Doug.
I'm sorry, this was back to the prior elections.
Okay, yeah.
Topic.
Fine.
I can wait.
No,
It's just a quick reminder that any proposed bylaws amendment changes need to be put before the board in the May meeting for a vote
yes,
in order for them to be put on the
Right.
ballot in time.
right.
Cool.
Because I think for a number of years, we misread section 9.1. The 60 days applies to proposed amendments coming from members. The board can do it just in order to, the board's deadline is the day before the notice is sent out, effectively.
Well, no, it's the meeting of the month before, because we still have to vote on it.
Yeah.
The board has to approve the amendment changes before it's put before the
Right,
membership.
Yeah, well, what I'm saying is that the 60 days doesn't apply to the board action, applies to something coming. The board can act in May for.
Yeah, at first we weren't quite sure of that, but I did some digging in past practice.
Yeah.
Because bylaw amendments.
Yeah.
I mean, you were the one that proposed the last round, I believe,
Right.
weren't you?
Yeah.
In 2019. So those were voted on in the May meeting.
Right.
So past practice is the May meeting so that they can make it on the ballot at the end of the month for that month window of the ballot being open.
But what I'm saying is that.
Yeah.
The May meeting is the deadline for board generated amendments. The provision about members getting 10 signatures, that is 60 days.
Right, because they need to make it to Dan in order for them to be put before the board in the May meeting.
Right.
That's why it's 60 days. So that's the end of April.
Right.
Right.
60 days doesn't, we can, a board member can bring something to the May meeting.
Right, because we're
Yeah.
voting on it anyway.
Right, yeah. Yes, Susan?
Although it should go out with the agenda the Friday before, so that we have time to review the proposed
Yes.
amendments before the meeting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Susan?
Doug, do I have permission to speak as staff rep for a minute?
I will yield the floor to you, which I'm allowed to
Just for the
do.
record, this is really not the way it's supposed to go, but yes, Susan?
Actually, I'm allowed to yield the floor to her, but you're
Okay.
allowed to cut her off at any time you
Okay.
want.
Yes, Susan?
According to the meeting,
Okay. Okay.
But speaking for the.
Yes, Susan?
then she-
I did go back, like I have a feeling I'm gonna be cut off, but we'll still try. I did go back to Jan Leventhal and Sally Sticks, who was the lawyer that looked over that particular bylaw that you're talking about, and Jan, who was the head of the bylaw committee at the time during the creation. And both of them said there was no intent to give the board any more time, that at that time, they had to create paper, they had to have them printed, they had to be mailed out, they had to come back. The 60 days was intended for both just because of what that entailed. And they said that was always the intent. It's always been honored that way. There's never been a time where, well, there was a time when the board did it in May, but it wasn't supposed to distinguish between when members were allowed to do it and when the board was allowed to do it. That was never the intent when they created them. And Sally apologized that she missed the comma. She said They told me very clearly what they wanted. I thought I had it covered. That's all I have to say.
Well, that's my ruling.
You got a loophole here.
Maybe that's an amendment that needs proposing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Tanya. That's a good idea.
Yeah, really. Yeah.
So my point is simply this, we will never have a board staff retreat if we can't agree on a date.
Right.
Period, end of story. I don't know why the date we were looking at never got agreed upon. I suspect it's because we had some people who simply didn't fill in the doodle poll.
Yeah.
I don't know. So, obviously there needs to be enough lead time so that, we can't say, hey, let's do it next week. I get it. Everybody has busy schedules. So whether we want to do this now or at another point in time, I suggest that we come up with a rough period of time. It may make more sense after we have new board members. I understand that. And whether that's July or August or whatever, and then, with a good 2-month lead time, get the doodle poll out, have a hard deadline, and then we have the retreat and actually expect whether or not people return, fill out the doodle poll or not. We give them enough advance notice. We expect you to be there. That is a requirement for both staff and board, and just do it.
For what it's worth, the entire staff did fill out the doodle poll, and the missing people who didn't fill it out were all board members.
Understood. I'm intentionally not trying to.
I know you're not, but I want to make it clear that the staff complied.
Yeah, it was on us.
Jeff's point of wait until after the election, because of the timing right now, makes sense. Because even if we got an agreement next week, it wouldn't be for a month out, it'd be like a month before the new election. It might be a couple new people here. So let's wait let's set a time in July or August. So as soon as possible after the election, let's set this up. We agreed on a facilitator. Let's check that guy out.
Well, yeah, but he's not, I don't know if he's certainly not available now. Whether or not he's available in the summer, we will find out, but.
Sure.
Yeah.
And
there's others, that's not there's always something, but I agree, let's set a time.
I would suggest we look at that time now and schedule it in July. Because it will be easier for Jeff to nail down availability in July in April. His schedule 3 months down the road, and by then the boards will be in. The other concern staff is we're not done with audio over IP yet.
Yeah.
We still have a whole nother board to install in Combo B and all the training that goes along with that, and whatever blows up in the meantime, like did on the other side.
Well, there's always going to be stuff.
So, right, there's always going to be stuff.
Even in my life, there'll be stuff.
But the further out we schedule it, the more likely is that we can all make it and not have other things come up.
Is this a weekend day?
Yeah.
Yes, we all envision it as a weekend day.
What is Susan? What's she saying now?
I think there might be a number of changes that come along with the CBA, and I think we should regroup after that.
Okay.
So in July or August, we have ours.
I think to a certain extent, the bargaining itself may have retreat functions inherent in it. I think there will be some discussions in those conversations that will.
Yeah, we do it after that. After the contract's resolved and signed, we do it. Then we have.
But we can find a date.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
If we wait
That's
until
what I'm
after
saying.
that,
Pick
then
a date now.
it's going to be 2 months later.
We're agreeing that we will immediately commence the another doodle poll to try and come up with a weekend date that everyone can make in July and see if we get.
Okay.
And just
And
narrow it down, and then boom, we set it.
would the board be okay with me proposing a date after I confer with staff? Because I know that one of the biggest concerns in the summer is Adrian and the summer music festivals. Because I want to be sure that Adrian can be available for it.
Can I recommend that I think it's fine to have a proposal and narrow it down, but get at least 2.
Give us
2 dates.
Give us
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if
It's
we're
just
limited to
July is
one, then
tough for her
inherently,
specifically.
Yeah.
So I'll pick 2 dates that aren't either a McPike session or
what
waterfront
I
or
would suggest
Lafayette.
actually is look at July and August.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe you can even come up with 3.
Yeah.
But
Great.
that gives, because the more choices that board members have,
I completely agree.
highest percentage will be able to
But
find
but
one.
not this overarching
No,
2-month
you're right.
span of who's available
You're
on
right,
any
yeah,
of
you
these
give it-
60
yeah,
days. Yeah.
Great idea, Doug.
July 11th through 13th, I'll be in Las Vegas, so.
July
Right.
11th to 13th, and I think that's also Lafette weekend, so
Okay.
that's out anyway.
Okay.
So the last half
Okay,
of July. through
okay,
August.
anything else?
I think so.
I don't have any other, yeah,
This is an administrative question. I
Yeah.
believe today was a pilot of having a hybrid board meeting
yeah.
starting at 6.
Yeah.
Do we think this is what we
Yeah.
want to continue doing? I'll admit, thank you, Laura,
Yeah.
because I forgot
Well,
what we were
yeah.
doing, so thanks
Well,
for.
well, let me ask Rebecca and Phil, obviously Phil can't make it, so Rebecca and Phil, any difference in this kind of experience for you on Zoom than, when we're all on Zoom? Any yays or nays for either of you in this experience?
It's a school night for me, for my child, so I actually appreciate it because while I can pay attention and be present, I can also make sure that someone is brushing teeth,
Okay.
so I actually appreciate the fact that we have this ability. So I would love it if it would continue.
But is this experience where we're all together any lesser or better for you than when we're all on Zoom, or is it equivalent?
No, I mean, I feel like it's still the same. I mean, every now and then, if you want to lean forward and give a little wave or pop your head in the video and people on the side, hey, yeah, maybe exciting, but otherwise it's still a roundtable discussion. And I think overall it still does the same format as whether you're, Brady Bunch on a square or if you're all in the room. So I'm fine with it.
Okay, thank you. Phil, anything you want to add?
No, I don't have a problem with this format. The only thing I'll mention is that it seems like we still have an issue with the correct Zoom link.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll keep working on
Keep
that.
working on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
And can I just say, I don't know that I've ever heard Rebecca before, and she sounds like at least one of the radio hosts.
Yeah,
And I
she's
don't.
boss lady.
Well, clearly you
There,
don't listen
there
to
you go. There you go.
Nights. Maybe that
Yes.
should be one of your action steps.
I do
And
listen to
what-
Saturday nights.
But,
I
yeah.
was in Memphis a few weeks ago, and there was a black food festival where near where I was staying. And I'm walking by, and there's a kiosk for Boss Lady Pickles.
Oh, okay. There you go.
So-
Well, I appreciate
Yeah,
this
that was a great
format.
picture. Thank you for that, by the way.
Awesome.
Okay, well, then if there's no further business to come before, I have no new
Wait,
business.
wait.
Yeah. Yes.
So is the decision made? We're gonna continue hybrid? And because the other shift we made, which caught me a little off guard,
Yeah.
maybe getting old and forgetting
Yeah.
things, was shifting from 7 to 6. So I want,
Okay,
let's make a decision.
okay. Anyone propose, are people good with 6 o'clock hybrid? Anyone?
Yes.
Yeah.
I prefer it.
Yeah.
Fine.
6 o'clock hybrid, 6 o'clock hybrid, okay. So it is written, so it shall be done. I always stop
Thank you,
quoting.
Moses.
Where,
It's Passover season, I quote these things.
where do we want this notated for the minutes?
It was actually Carol.
New business.
New
New
business,
business, okay,
okay.
by consensus.
No motion to go into closed session, nothing else to come before us, so if there, anybody got anything else? If not, we'll stand adjourned until May 15th, and do we have anything,
Ooh, early meeting.
Another one, huh?
do we have anything before, any events before that that we need to pay attention to?
Volunteer
this-
coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah, the volunteer week is next week. There'll be ice cream every day.
Okay,
I'm going tomorrow to buy the toppings.
okay,
And then also Saturday night is the Crystal Corner
420.
benefit.
yeah,
420 all day.
Okay.
I'll also be at the Craft Bazaar on North Street from noon to 5. There'll be Wart DJs, and I'll have my little booth selling raffle tickets. It's it's kitty corner from Dexter's on North Street and Johnson. Yeah.
It's a block away from me.
Is it really? That's
Yes,
awesome.
Yes, Susan?
I just want to say that I'm also offering as part of Volunteer Week for any of you interested. On Sunday, I'm going to be at the station with all the leftover clothing from previous drives that's being offered as cost. I think I missed telling you guys that the last time we did it. And there's just a ton of stuff. So if you're interested, I will send to the board. Right now, Adrian set the time and I need to go back and check it. It's either 2 to 5 or 3 to 6 on the Sunday afterwards, but I will send the board especially an invite to come to that. That's all.
For that.
Also keep your ears open on the radio, because the staff collective is, and I'm just letting you and we're putting together a special promo for our volunteers where each staff member is going to
cool.
take a line, and it's just going to basically be a love promo to all our volunteers. And of course, that includes all of you too. So listen for that next week as well.
Okay, well, with that, we'll stand
I'll get
adjourned.
some tickets.
You didn't ask.
Oh,
We're adjourned. No, we're adjourned. I just want to say personally, we met in person because some of you, I didn't actually never met face to face before.
Yeah.
Thanks. For
Yeah,
making the
I
effort.
appreciate that happened.
Facebook for a year
So
at least.
thank you, Phil and Rebecca and Susan and Dave.
Everybody
No
else.
problem.
Okay.
Have fun storming the castle.
Hey, Jeff,
You're out of here. No,
we could probably meet right here. Don't you
Okay.
think?
Yeah, I'm just.
I have to ask you,
Who's
Yeah.
doing Adrian?
have we like worked together before? Do I know you?
You, come on.
Impressions. Okay, I knew it was somewhere and I couldn't remember how far back.
And I used to work at the bookstore with Aaron.
Oh, so yeah, okay. I couldn't remember if it was there or if it was when I worked at Captel. But it was that far back. It was Impressions days. No, 7 years I spent there.
Fill in for Phil.